Namaste and welcome viewers to another episode of Mirror Prime. I'm Ashish Pareek and today we'll be discussing about the ugly flip side of cosmetic surgeries in India. The Dakshina Kannada District Health Department has now launched an investigation into the death of a 32-year-old man who died while undergoing a cosmetic surgery procedure in Mangaluru. The man went to the clinic for gynecomastia surgery, which usually takes around 45 to 90 minutes. But when he wasn't discharged for many hours, the family sitting outside got worried. They found out later that the surgery had gone wrong and then he was declared dead on arrival at a hospital. This death during the cosmetic surgery in Mangaluru has now once again put the focus on the growing concerns surrounding cosmetic procedures in India. While the demand for these surgeries in India has surged, for example, India is now among the top 5 countries as far as cosmetic procedures are concerned. But with the rise of surgeries, the risks also seem to be escalating. Now, this is a 6 lakh crore industry every single year. It is expected to triple in the next 10 years, but keeping the business aside, some critical questions still loom large. Are the patients adequately informed about dangers of cosmetic surgeries beforehand? Is there a sufficient oversight to ensure that practitioners are properly trained? And as social media continues to fuel unrealistic expectations, are the patients being misled about the realities of cosmetic surgery? Joining us on the broadcast, Dr. Veena Kumari Singh, who's a plastic surgery expert, Soumya Jogi, psychologist, and shortly we'll also be joined by Kasthuri Shankar, who's an actress. Dr. Veena Kumari ji, I'll first start with you now. This is a massive industry. We are talking about cosmetic procedures here. Approximately 8 to 10 million cosmetic procedures are performed in India every single year. India is known for offering cosmetic procedures at prices that are 30 to 50% less expensive than those in other countries. Is the race to making it cheaper also making it riskier?
Let me tell you one thing. A few years back, cosmetic surgery was always considered as an optional one. Okay. But currently, it has become a very much important as part as the functionality is concerned, because when the patient loses confidence and the patient is not able to integrate well in the society because of some problem he or she is finding either in the facial features or in the appearance, then it becomes something like a compulsion on the part of the patient. So it becomes very necessary to restore the lost confidence. And regarding the rates, which you are telling that since it has become cheaper, it has become more affordable and more in demand, something like that. Yes, it is like that, because with time, the patient and the doctors, plastic surgeons, both have realized that it is a necessity on the part of the patients. So that's why many plastic surgeons are now expertising in the field of aesthetic surgery, which commonly people call it as a cosmetic surgery. And that's why the rates have also come within the affordable range. And
But
regarding the
Veena ji, you
risk,
say this has become a necessity. How is it a necessity? It is still called an elective surgical procedure. It's still in the elective category, right?
yeah, it's still an elective. It is not an emergency surgery. But the point
So
is
how do we
that
call it?
necessity.
How do we call it a
Yes,
necessity?
yes.
Is it again the pressure being created by the society? Is it the pressure being
So
created by the society and suddenly everyone thinks that, okay, this is a shortcut for me to gain confidence, so let me do this?
So I tell you why it is a necessity. Necessity doesn't mean that it always has to be an emergency. All the elective surgeries, removal of a gallbladder stone and an appendix, they are also elective, but they are necessary. Similarly, the aesthetic surgeries. If a patient finds that his or her nose is not looking good, and because of that he is losing confidence and not able to present himself or herself in front of the society, if his job demands or something like that, then to regain the confidence, it becomes a necessity on the part of the patient. Suppose a patient gets mentally depressed because of the appearance, because of the facial some deformities, then how that patient is going to work in, whether in the professional relationships or in the personal part. So on the patient, it becomes necessity because of this,
Okay.
because patient is not able to work well, not able to perform well. Okay.
Okay. No offense to here, but I just find it funny that we're trying to link something like a gallbladder surgery, which is also elective, to something like a cosmetic procedure. I mean, I am not going to die if I don't get my nose corrected. I mean, it's still a confidence issue and it is still elective. Not everybody has to get it. But let's now move over to Soumya Jogiji, who's a psychologist. Soumya ji, I'm not trying to judge anyone here, but how is it okay and how is it allowed by even the governments to risk someone's life only and only because they want to look a certain way? You know there are risks, you know it's not safe, but people still do it. How is it even allowed?
Now that is a very interesting question. What I was going to answer was quite to the points of what the previous speaker had said. But what you've asked me puts me in a very difficult spot, because the answer to that is it's being done because there are genuine people like burn victims and such. They genuinely need it. Us time pe, in that situation, they don't have a different option. So people with burn victims, and there are certain cases where perhaps cosmetic surgery is necessary. But that said, it's a personal choice, not a solution to the psychological issue, right? So we talked about depression, we talked about different mental health conditions. Those conditions are genuine issues and they have other solutions as well. Plastic surgery will help elevate those problems temporarily, but these surgeries don't remove those deep seated emotional scars that exist in that human being. So for that,
Correct.
an emotional or mental health intervention is much more practical than something like cosmetic surgery.
Yeah, I think as a psychologist, you have very efficiently answered what Dr. Veena was trying to say there. Also joining us is Kasthuri Shankar, who's an actress. Kasthuri ji, facelift, liposuction, Botox, facelift. I mean, I don't even remember the names now. The list goes on and on. I was reading somewhere that these days people are even coloring their eyes. I mean, I don't understand how it's even allowed. And apparently, if it's illegal in some country, people fly to other countries to get it done. As an actress yourself, someone who comes from the world of glamour, how do you look at this trend that seems to be becoming common now?
I'll say this. Um, as an actor, I come across people who have modified themselves all the time. I see people who have gone under the knife all the time. And 99% of the times, and I'm sorry to say this, I don't want to offend anyone, but 99% of the times, they look better before than after. Now, there are some people who have benefited from a nose job and who have benefited from, they even got a new movie. There is a female superstar in the South who had a tummy tuck even before she was, she was nowhere close to childbearing. She had a tummy tuck because she wanted to be in a bikini and she looked fabulous. Everything was good. But in the end, she ended up having surrogate babies because, she has modified her body that much. It's just, I find, and the number of nightmarish path where people go down and there is, it's a path of no return. Take a person like Michael Jackson, for instance. The two speakers before me, both a doctor and a
Horrific stories
psychologist.
that you're sharing here, Kasturiji. As an actor, have you been under pressure for doing something like this? Because the kind of stories that you're sharing, like if I hear that, I would never advise anyone to go through something like this, but still people do. What's the pressure like?
It's horrible. It's from the get-go. I signed a movie called Atma, and that director is no longer with us. He has passed away. But when I signed that movie, the first thing the guy told me at the audition was that I have to change my nose because, mera naak thoda theda hai. So that's the first thing he said. And he even gave me recommendations. He gave me names to approach. And then he gave me some names of artists who have done it. And I sat there and thought, if I basically thought if I cannot act my way out of a nose, then I shouldn't be in movies. So instead of looking at actresses that he mentioned, I looked at actors like Kajol and Kareena for inspiration, for charisma at that time. for inspiration, because these are people who are beautiful people and they have done nothing. And at that time, I was a Miss India finalist. I lost to Aishwarya and Sushmita. And at that time, it was big news. Sushmita's boob job was big news. And I was thinking, why? This is movies. This is the industry of make believe. Why do you have to do these kind of things when you can just, have a padded bra? I mean, sorry to excuse my French, but you can actually take care of these. These are not necessities. At the end of the day, the pressure, what I'm trying to say is, I think people
This
kept
is the
telling
problem.
Sushmita that
Kasturi ji, I think this is the problem that I wanted to speak about on the show. The fact that
she was Miss Universe and she was still having body image problems. That is what this industry does to you.
Correct. 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 This is the issue that I wanted to talk on the show today. The fact that it is being normalized so much that even those that don't really have any sort of an issue with their body actually start thinking twice about, going ahead with something like this. Dr. Veena Kumari Singh ji, now you of course said a lot about confidence, and Soumya ji also responded to you about the psychological aspect of this entire thing. But cosmetic surgeries in India, the problem here is that they're not governed by any specific legislation. Correct me if I'm wrong here. Is this also a contributing factor for so many botched up procedures in India? The fact that there is some sort of a medical negligence which comes into the picture, especially with cosmetic procedures in India?
So let me tell you regarding the legislation first. There are laws because a cosmetic surgery is also being performed by a trained plastic surgeon, a board certified plastic surgeon, and we have our National Medical Commission to rule it. So it is within the purview of legislation. All the surgeries are being performed with proper protocol. Your second point was that the cases which have been
are they
botched up.
specific to cosmetic surgeries?
Yes, yes.
Are they specific to
See,
cosmetic surgeries?
this
Is what I'm
cosmetic
asking.
surgery is a
If you
part
can just
of.
help me understand what are the rules and regulations and what's the punishment like?
So cosmetic surgery is a part of plastic surgery training. Plastic surgery is a super specialty branch. After doing MS general surgery, it is MCH plastic surgery, and it is very much mentioned in the plastic surgery curriculum. Even the National Medical Commission does not give approval to a center who does not perform cosmetic surgery at the government centers. You understand the demand and the training which is involved. So a 3 years training for cosmetic surgeries. So there are absolute rules. This is also a type of surgery. Let us not hype it. It is a type of surgery, and all the laws, all the rules, all the protocols are being followed very duly. The second thing is about the blotching up of the cases in the past. See, these patients did not die due to the surgery itself. There were anesthetic complications. And anesthetic complications are such which can happen even in an emergency patient, in an elective patient, for some other kind of surgery. So even for our reconstructive cases, we always explain the patient about the anesthesia risk. So the actress which died in Bangalore, in Hyderabad, all these were because of the anesthesia complication.
Yes.
And these were the within the same range of percentage as for any other population who underwent surgery. So there was no difference, no increase. So blaming the aesthetic surgery for these complications or mishaps is not justified. And the third thing, I'm sorry, but my previous speaker,
nobody's blaming those who practice all this.
Just give me
but
10
I'm just
more
trying
seconds.
to get a sense of. I'm just 1 second. I'm just trying to get a sense of a sense of this issue here, because what happens is a lot of times we look at a lot of complaints that come in. The fact that patients are given a detailed assessment about what they would be looking like after the surgery, but not enough is told to them about the risks that are involved as well. That's also an issue. I'm not saying that this is an issue with every single plastic surgeon out there, but this is still a real issue that is out there, and we need to address this as well.
Yes, so here lies the glitch. Since this is a facial plastic surgery, many of the non-plastic surgeons are also performing, like for the dental, for the oral maxillofacial people, some of the dermatologists also.
We've come to the point now. Dr.
Yes.
Veena ji, we've just come to the point now. Please go ahead.
So The plastic surgeons are the only trained surgeons, and this I am saying on record. Even the National Medical Commission mentions in its website that all the facial cosmetic surgeries to be done by a trained plastic surgeon, like the hair transplantation, the nose job, any fillers, or the Botox use of this. It has to be done by a person who is well trained. So, a person who is well trained will give you all the information, nothing to hide. But the person who has not received a training, only a 3 months of certification course, or some observership or some fellowship, they are not at all fully trained. So those are the people who might be hiding the facts and leading to all these complications. Another thing which I wanted to add to my previous point regarding the confidence, think about the teenage people, teenage boys who are suffering from gynecomastia. I know you have heard the terms like male boobs. So there is a hormonal imbalance during the
Correct.
teenage, and many of the boys in the age of 13 and 14 years, they are suffering from gynecomastia. I have seen those children suffering from mental trauma. They are not able to join swimming. They are not able to go in their banyans and all those things, and they are coming to us. So we actually perform gynecomastia after the patient is adult, but sometimes since the patient is going through so much of emotional trauma, we have to do the surgery at the age of 14 and
Hmm.
15 years also, so that the boy goes well with his friends, goes out and do all the sports activity. So cosmetic surgery is no more an optional
Correct.
or a fancy surgery. So that is the point I want to convince. One who suffers, only that person can understand.
All right. Okay. Uh, Soumya ji, again, let's talk about the psychological aspect of this because, okay, we agree with a lot of points that Dr. Veena is saying that for a lot of people, it's no, it's not about just the aesthetics. It's about them trying to face people with confidence as well, and it's understandable. But do you think people who don't really have an issue with their body, they look at social media, they immediately start having body image issues, they have what the Gen Z call it FOMO, they feel that their body is not perfect and they think that why is everyone looking so good while I'm not? So do you think the celebrity culture and the fact that this entire aesthetic surgery and everything is being normalized, do you think that is also putting a lot of pressure on young girls especially to look a certain way, to
Absolutely.
behave a certain way, and therefore they fall into this trap as well?
Absolutely. And there is no two ways about it. The kind of pressure the teenagers these days are undergoing, it's very, very torturous. In the earlier times, perhaps you had one or two people to compare yourself with, but today you have a plethora of people just staring at you, looking picture perfect, and that's not reality, right? And as cliche as this sounds, nobody can heal these wounds through surgery. I mean, no matter what the plastic surgeon before me said, and especially for kids, I don't think that is something that can be done through surgery. If there's a confidence issue, that has to be dealt with at an emotional level, at a psychological level, because even if at that time that person is somehow able to elevate that fear, elevate that issue, it's still going to haunt them. It's still going to come back to them because the problem is
Correct.
the negative self talk. The problem is the image or perception he or she has created about himself. The fact is that he does not feel that he is enough, that he is lacking in that self compassion and self love.
Correct.
And he's not getting that from the people around him either. So saying that a surgery is going to fix it is almost like
Right.
saying, if I change, then they are going to love me, right? So that also creates
Exactly.
another set of issues.
Exactly.
So when I talk about the surgery and the cosmetic aspect of it, first do a psychological assessment before the child or before the adult. Pehle to I don't think that we should have children undergo surgery at all, but that's my personal view. But as far as adults are also concerned, first have a psychological assessment done to see if that person is going under surgery for some sort of psychological issue, whether it is any body dysmorphia or if there's any anxiety or depression issues. If that is the root cause of it, if there's some trauma there, solve that trauma, heal that child, heal that adult, that that person make a choice then to get a surgery, knowing the risks and the
Correct.
consequences. Also, post-operative things are not as easy as you make
Absolutely.
it sound. When you hear the term cosmetic surgery, right? that itself gives a very negative impression.
Absolutely.
So if you have somebody
Soumya ji,
saying
like you
that,
rightly pointed out, nobody has an issue if the person who's undergoing the surgery knows about the risks. But the problem here is that there are allegations that people are not aware of the risks that are involved. They only look at the glamorous side. They only look at the results, the possible results, how good they look after the surgery, but they don't really understand the risks that are involved. Dr. Veena ji, we're running short of time right now, just a few seconds left. But before we wrap, if you could just help me understand, because you're from the field yourself, what role does the government now has to play? Because yes, you said there are a lot of laws, but they have to be made stricter. So what role does the government play in enforcing stricter regulations and also to monitor these unlicensed or underqualified cosmetic surgeons?
So here the government has to take a stand that they should ban almost other non-plastic surgeons doing this type of aesthetic surgeries, especially the facial part. I'm telling you, the facial part is the most sensitive part. So they should stop these things. There should have to be some punitive actions for this, or they allow only to those who have a proper degree, a proper certification, whatever is there in our curriculum. So that is one thing which government is not taking a stand on it. And our Plastic Surgery Association on the national level has been trying very tooth and nail not to allow the other fraternity to perform these surgeries, because obviously you do one part, if it goes well, by luck, it is another thing. But if it goes bad, then only a plastic surgeon can handle will be able to handle the complications, not others. So that is one thing the
Okay.
government has to do.
Veena ji, I'm just running short of time now. Before we wrap, a quick word from Kasthuri ji. Kasthuri ji, you said that you also face the pressure to change the way you look. I've only got 30 seconds on the broadcast. You can just quickly tell all the young viewers who are watching right now how to put up against the pressure of changing the way you look, especially when it comes from outside.
Just remember, you're perfect. God created you in his image. It's perfection. All of us, without any health complications, are aesthetically beautiful. My grandfather had man boobs. He also had 5 children. Nothing stopped. So I think really it's a question of changing what's inside your mind, your head, more than changing what's outside. I think that's what counts.
Absolutely. Kasthuri ji, like you rightly pointed out, beauty lies in the imperfections. I think that's the word that we'll take today. And of course, a lot has to be done as far as this field is concerned. Dr. Veena Kumari ji, Soumya Jogi, Kasthuri Shankar, appreciate you all joining us on the broadcast, sharing your point of view about this very important issue that a lot of youngsters, not just youngsters, people across all age groups in India are dealing with. That's it from my end on this episode of Mirror Prime Views. Lots more lined up on the other side. Stay tuned.